Hello. This is a kind of saber taping basics video. So to start off with, it's all really going to depend on how much you need to tape based on the current condition of your saber. Right now, I have like a little bit of like silver poking through in some spots, but overall, like my blade is covered. It's really just the top layer of tape, that most outer layer of tape, that's a little messed up, so I'm going to redo that. But if you have like really big pieces across your saber where you can see the metal, you can see the shine, you're going to need to do the entire thing. So obviously you're going to need black and white tape. Um, I think y'all don't have spotters. I'm pretty sure. We will figure that out. I'm pretty sure y'all don't have like the spotter tape. It's just going to be completely white for y'all. But another thing, oh gosh, is if your hilt looks like that, you never want to be able to see the button of the saber. It's really bad to keep hitting it. Also, it'll just damage anything and everything. If the metal is showing, it will just tear through absolutely everything. So first things first, assess your blade, figure out how much you need to tape, what needs to be fixed, and begin to untape and then fix all that. So I'm going to go ahead and untape my blade, and then I will show y'all how I do a spiral tape. Okay, so I have untaped my blade. I only really need to do, for my saber personally, I only need to do the top layer of tape. So I took that off, took off the tape on the tip, took off both spot and catch tape, and I took off all of my tape on the hilt. So to start off, I always like to go, no matter if I'm doing my whole blade, I'm doing both first and outer layer, I always like to start at the hilt, work my way down. If I'm doing both layers, so the first layer and the top layer, I go from bottom down, and then using the same piece of tape so I don't have to restart, I will go back up. But since I'm only doing one layer, I'm just gonna start at the hilt for y'all. So first thing you're gonna do obviously is you're gonna grab your white tape, and you will place the edge of the tape right next to the hilt of the the basket, so you will not see really any silver shining through. And I like to wrap it around maybe like once or twice. So once I've done that, I'm going to start to spiral my tape all the way down the blade. And whenever I spiral, I always make sure that there's about a quarter of the tape that will overlap the previous piece. So as you guys can see, it always will overlap a little bit. Some places are a little bit thicker and some places are a little bit thinner than others, but the entire idea is you don't want it to be like super thick all the way down or super thin. If there's too much overlap all the way down, your saber's going to get really heavy, especially if you have two layers of this. And if it's too thin, then your saber has more of a potential to like get messed up easier. So once you have gone around the top a little bit, you will start to angle your tape downwards, making sure that there are no bubbles or creases, and you will twist the blade and try to start to find, I don't know if you can really see right there, that's my first overlap, and I'm just going to continue this overlap all the way down the blade. And in a perfect world, when you tape your saber, you should have kind of like an X pattern going all the way down the blade. So it should never overlap like in the same direction. It should always like alternate basically. So you're just gonna do this all the way down the blade, taking your time. You can see that once I switch sides, I pull my tape a little bit so I can get it nice and flat and I don't have any air bubbles. Super important. Always make sure everything's nice, flat, lay down, stuck, stretch a little bit, but not to the point where it's like stretching the tape, you know, like when you're gonna like tear it, like it like stretches out and gets really thin and weird. Just enough to keep everything super tidy looking. And you're gonna do this all the way down if you're just doing the top layer, and then or all the way down and then back up the blade if you're doing both layers. Okay, so I have taped all the way down my blade. Remember, if you have really bad tape, you're going to do both layers. You must tape your Sabre, must have 2 layers basically. It can never have 1, and it may never have 3. Then your Sabre is going to be stupid heavy, and we don't like that. So, you finish your tape. Most likely, you went all the way down and all the way back up. If you didn't, that's fine. I just cut my tape off real quick. We are going to tape the tip real quick. So I like to go like to my first knuckle, like about that far down the blade, to start just wrapping a little. And then I do it like maybe like 3 times or so. I'm gonna pull a bunch off and keep it around my finger and then twist it. Or even better, just twist the tape roll itself. Cool. And now, once you have this like rope basically, you're going to start to wrap it right around the tip. And I think what it was called is like, what is it? A beehive tip or something? I don't know. That's what I remember hearing at some point last year. But you're just going to keep wrapping it. Make sure that it's pretty tight and next to it itself every time you wrap around. You don't want to have like big gaps. And if you made a little bit too much, that's fine. So once you get to the very tip, you're going to notice that it's kind of hard to like keep it down without it like wanting to like fly off, you know? So at this point, I'll just hold the tape down and kind of make a little like flap, I guess, for the very top to protect the very top part of the tip. And then I'll just tear it off, get rid of the little bit of excess, go back, fix it, rewrap it a little bit. Cool. And then taking my tape and this piece, this is where it gets a little hard, because depending on the way you twisted your tape, it may be sticky, it may not. Right now mine is not sticky, and sometimes it ends up being sticky for me, sometimes it's not. It's just kind of luck of the draw. So realize you have too much tape, get rid of some. You are going to try to keep this piece of tape relatively stuck while you take a single piece and just lay it over the top. And this is just to hold everything together. This one does not have to be pretty. It's gonna be covered up. And then I start to layer small little pieces of tape across the tip, so everything's intact. I do it in the direction of the flat side of the blade, so like flat side to flat side, and then I'll do edge over to edge, just kind of press the sides of that tape down. And then once I do that a couple times, go edge to edge once, So once I did that a couple times, I will just wrap the tip like normal, how you would usually wrap. And you're gonna notice that the Sabre feels really, or it doesn't feel big, but it's gonna look like there's like a little like beehive on it, basically. And I'll just wrap it down once and then wrap it back up. Doesn't have to have the prettiest overlay. As long as your tip is covered, that's really the most important thing to me, and that we're not damaging any floors or your Sabre. So that, I would say, is a really good looking tip. It's not super big. When you look at it from far away, you really can't even tell that the tip is taped with like a bunch of tape wrapped up. And that's the goal. What I don't want to see is like a tip that looks like a flag tip on the end of your Sabre. That's like a giant bumper guard, because it looks super dumb in the air. So once you've done that, I usually like to come back up to the hilt. Once again, lay my tape down. And this just kind of finishes off the blade, in my opinion. Wrap it maybe once or twice. Tear it. And it just kind of makes everything look a little bit neater and nicer. Now, for your spot tape, it's also the balance point of your Sabre. So what I usually like to do is I take my finger, I usually take my pointer finger, and I don't lay the blade flat like this. I'll lay it right on the edge of my finger, because it kind of helps me find more of a specific point to the blade. So right there, that's my balance point, because my Sabre is nice and flat. So I'll just take my other hand with my tape, lay it down, and wrap around a couple times. And then boom, you have got yourself a spot tape. I'm pretty sure you guys will be doing yours in white. I will double check, but I'm pretty sure you guys have all white blades. And then for your catch tape, I believe you can check with like an older member Sabre or whatever, but usually what I do, since I have been spinning for quite a while, I'll just kind of go to my flat and feel where it feels natural for me. And then I'll put my catch tape down there. However, for y'all should really find someone whose Sabre is correct. There's probably a couple old ones in the guard room. Find one of those. Decide as a group which one is correct. Match to it. Or I believe if you line up your Sabre with the tiles in the band hall, it's like the second tile or something. I don't know. But always make the catch tape nice and bumpy for you, so you can really feel your catch tape when you catch, and that's not just like a single piece of tape. So that is the blade. Now we will move on to the hilt. So what I always like to do with my hilt is I will start off with small pieces, probably about the length of like your finger or so. And I will start by laying one piece starting from right where the curve of the basket meets like the hilt, and I will pull it back over the screw or the button or whatever you want to call it, and just pull it down the hilt, flattening it out. And then I will do this a couple times, going in an X. So I will go across the top of the screw now, So I kind of made like a T with the last piece of tape, with the first and last piece of tape. Gonna take a third piece, going at that angle, starting to make an X across the screw. So it's kind of the same thing as when you're taping a flag tip. You want to like do one strip and then the strip in the opposite way and then the X over the tip before you wrap it so the white of the tip is covered. Same idea with that. And then I will take a final piece and do it once more, like the first piece we laid down, just straight back. Just add, I feel like it adds just a little bit more protection to the screw. And then I like to start at this notch, not the first notch, but the second one. And I will just take a piece of tape, slap it down on the hilt, and start to wrap around. And here you can have less of an overlay. You should still overlay each piece of tape you lay down, but it doesn't have to be like super like severe, you know? And make sure you're always stretching this tape, because this is the part of the saber that really likes to bubble and get weird. And obviously there are going to be little bubbles, like I have some really small ones, but I've stretched the tape so much now that it's really not going to do like anything to my blade. Like it won't like end up causing like the tape to like fall off or anything, you know, because of the bubbles. So just keep pulling and stretching the tape and wrapping. Now once you get up to the curve of the blade, you're going to have to start wiggling the tape kind of in weird directions, and that's going to feel stupid and awful. But so I've reached all the way to the end. I am going to take this last piece. Let's see if you can see it. And I'm going to stretch it up right next to the edge of the screw. Don't know if you could see that fully. And then back down underneath. And then just do like a quick little down, down, tear it, stretch, and you're done. And it's very nicely taped. So you have everything nice and taped. Let me try to find a Sharpie so I can show y'all how I want y'all to mark your blades. Perfect, I found a Sharpie. So you are going to hold the blade towards yourself in a right flat, so the hilt would be in your left hand, the the blade would be in your right, and the side that's closest to you, so the side that I'm looking at that's going to be away from the audience most likely, is where I want you to put your initials. So for my saber, it would be closest to me. I'd put an S and a B. Make sure it's nice and dark. And then I'm fine with this as long as this is not like, you're not like drawing pictures on your saber. I'm fine with this. I do this personally. Like I'll put a little chevron on my saber because regiment. I know some of y'all like to put smiley faces. When I was in high school, I put like a star sticker on mine, like a red star, shiny star sticker. That's how I differentiated mine from everyone else's. But just write your initial on it, so then when it's in the audience perspective, you can't see anything. So that is your saber taping. One last thing right here. Do you see how the curve of the basket, once it hits the hilt, there is no tape going onto the basket right here. I know That's how we usually taped, but I think it looks a little bit, it makes your sabers look like plastic sabers, and I don't like that. I want to show off all of the basket all the way down to where it connects. So yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to ask Mallory, ask Miss Johnson, ask me, ask one of the older members that have spun Sabre already. Don't be afraid to ask any questions. We would be happy to answer them. Happy taping, and remember, this is not something that you can do in like 5 minutes. It took me at least a song and a half from my Spotify, I don't even know what song it was, to tape all the way down the blade. So, and I'm relatively skilled and like trained at like taping relatively quickly too. So please take your time with this. The more you rush it, the more it's gonna look really sloppy, and we want our sabers to look super nice, because the nicer you tape your equipment, the more time you take with taking care of your equipment, the longer it is going to stay nice. So happy taping, and good luck. Have any questions, please don't be afraid to ask.